Zero, you talk about artificial intelligence. Even a person who has a small, let's say a person has a small shoe business and she makes bespoke shoes for men, and they are very high quality leather stuff that she's making. She runs a small business. She just has 4 employees. However, in the line of this industry 4.0, she will be wanting to have a great website, which is good to have presence on all other social media, which is also very good to have. And based on artificial intelligence, she would also want to have a chatbot on her website that helps the customers answer the questions. Well, nothing wrong in that. It's absolutely fantastic that you want to keep pace with the growing technology. As entrepreneurs, you do need to do that. However, let's make sure that we are not distracted from distraction by distraction. This is my favorite quote when it comes to entrepreneurs, people who are beginning their entrepreneurial journey. We get so carried away by what's happening around in the technological advances or other aspects of the commercialized economy that we tend to lose sight of the core of our business. We tend to lose on the basic areas that we want to be focusing on, that we should be focusing on in order to grow. So the example that I gave of a shoe retailer, a manufacturer and retailer who has a small business and who wants to have a chatbot on her website, it is great that she wants to have, but please do not distract yourself with all these advances coming in. There is more important stuff that you need to lay your hands on, that you need to have your minds focused on. Let's look at what that important stuff is. So that is strategy. Strategy is as good as the skeleton of your body. You know, humans, those of you who studied biology in high school or middle school, you would have read about the skeletal system, the formation of the bones in your body that helps you stand up, that helps you carry yourself, and rest the flesh and the skin and the blood. That is all extra, which is adding value, of course. But which is the main structure? The main structure is your skeleton, one which is composed of your bones that gives a shape to your body. The same way is the strategy. The strategy of the business is the foundation. It helps you understand where you want to be and what you need to do in order to get there. How many of you like to visit Cold Stone Creamery? Any Cold Stone Creamery fans here? Just a thumbs up or a yes in the chat box. Cold Stone Creamery?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah,
okay. Some of you, right? And they have those popular freaking shakes, which I also really love. I remember having those on one of my trips to Nigeria. So those Cold Stone freaking shakes. Imagine you are just craving for one of those shakes. Okay, you know what you want. You want that freaking shake. But do you also know how you're going to get that? Are you going to make an order sitting from the comfort of your home, or you're going to drive to the creamery, or you're going to tell your friend to pick up your order on his way back? What are you going to do? You need to have clarity on what you want. In this example, you are clear that you want a freaking shake. The next important thing is knowing how you are going to get it. Whether you want to make an order or you want to visit the place, what is it that you want to do? Same goes for your business. You should be knowing what you want your business to do and where do you see your business. However, it is even more important to know and to realize and to have a plan in place for how your business is going to get there. Some of you who are into technology industry, any of the technology entrepreneurs here? So these technology entrepreneurs, especially, they're so focused on bringing out the product. Okay, they're so excited. I have developed this product and this is a great hardware which is going to be very well integrated into a particular software and the companies can really benefit from it. And this person falls in love with his or her product that they have developed. And they go on marketing it and they start selling it without having a strategy in place. People, it's a great idea to have a product or a service ready that you want to offer to your customers. Perfect, you are nailing it. However, do not miss out on the aspect of strategy. Do not miss out on the long-term plan that you need to have for your business. For instance, you want to be exporting your products out of Nigeria, you want to be exporting your products in Europe, you know that you want to export your products, but do you have a plan in place? Are you connecting with the right people? Are you developing the right kind of products which are going to be okay for the European markets? Are you having the right certifications? So all that needs to be taken care of in the long term. And how is it taken care of? It is by developing a strategy, by formulating and implementing a strategy. Now, here's the catch. Do not mistake strategy for the tactic. Strategy is a broad overview of your goals and your plan, whereas the tactic is only the technique that you're going to use in order to get there. And I'm going to also give you a case towards the end of the session, which will make you clear what is the difference between strategy and tactic. Now, this is the core of this session. Have a look at it very carefully. If you're having notes or a notepad, just note it down with a pen and a paper. Make sure you're taking this home today and you are doing it right now, or either you're doing it after the session. Okay, my idea is not to spoil your Friday evening. Probably you have to go out with your friends, you're going partying, but please, before you move out, do some homework. This is a really important stuff about your business that you need to be taking care of. Designing your business. What are the questions that you need to be asking yourself? So we saw what is strategy. Now we are moving to an area where we are discussing what are the questions that you need to ask yourself in order to design a business that is ready for success. The first scorecard that you see here is in blue, and it talks about the customer scope. Do you know who you are going to serve? Do you know who are your customers? Imagine a clothing brand. I'm taking a case of a clothing retailer, and this clothing retailer makes, or rather offers, clothes for corporate women. Okay, that's the case we are taking. Does she know who are her customers? She cannot be going out and marketing her product to all the women out there. If she's specializing in corporate wear, office wear for women, she needs to be very sure that she is marketing her products to corporate women, women who are working in offices. How will you do that? First of all, you need to be very clear on who your customers are. What is their age? What is the demographics? Where are you going to find them? Are they young women, or are they middle-aged women, or they are the ones who are in their 50s or in their 60s? You need to be very clear on who you are serving. So that's the first thing. Clarity on who your customers are. What do they look like? The second part in yellow is the value proposition. What are you offering? Okay, so in this case, I'm talking about a clothing retailer. She's offering clothes. She's offering office wear. But that is just an object. A cloth is just an object. What is the value that your cloth is offering? I mean, there are hundreds of clothes available in the market. And what is the purpose of a cloth? Just to cover the body, right? But what is the value that your cloth is offering, that your office wear is offering? The value, let me give you an example here. The value you're offering here is the comfort and the confidence and the aura of a corporate woman. That is the value you're offering. So when we are marketing the products, we need to be very sure that we are not marketing our product as an object, but as the purpose. What is the purpose that they're serving for our customers? So be very clear on this value proposition. Otherwise, you will be drained out. There are hundreds of competitors. There are hundreds of people in the market who are having products similar to yours. So be very clear on what are you offering. Then comes the value delivery, meaning what is your operating model? You know you have your customers, you know you have a product, but how are you going to make sure that your product reaches your customers? Maybe you're manufacturing the cloth yourself, you are manufacturing here in Nigeria itself, or you want to import from some other country and you want to sell here. Depending on how you decide to be procuring your items, your further operating model will take shape. So be very clear on what your operating model is. Business is not just about, okay, getting a product, selling it and making profit. That is not business. Business is about knowing who your customers are, being very clear on what value you're offering, and then having an operating model that supports all this. And when you are having a lovely product that your customers just are in love and they...
Diplomatic questions.
Are we ready? Okay. So while you are in love with your product and your customers are also in love with your product, you are making great profits, then will come your customers. And there is a high chance they will be able to copy what you are doing. So you need to be ready. What are your sources of uniqueness? Are your sources of uniqueness emanating from something that cannot be copied by other competitors? You need to protect yourself. You know, when we plant a new tree, we protect it with some kind of structures to make sure it's not eaten up by other animals around, or it's not just taken off by other humans. Same goes for your business, your product. You have to know what your sources of uniqueness are, and let's make sure that we have something that our competitors are not able to copy or they're not able to emulate. LinkedIn is a case study here. So LinkedIn, are you all using LinkedIn first of all? Yes?
Yeah,
no?
I'm on LinkedIn.
Perfect. So I'm assuming that all of you are using LinkedIn, and if there is anyone who is not using, please go home and create your LinkedIn account. It is very important for you to be present on LinkedIn as a professional network. So this LinkedIn is a multi-sided organization. It's providing services for job seekers, for recruiters, for consultants. So it has different kinds of customers, 3 different kinds of customers. It has the job seekers, it has the recruiters, and then it has the consultants. Okay, we are answering the questions that LinkedIn would have answered in designing their business based on the scorecards that we saw in the previous slide. Okay, so that's why I'm talking about LinkedIn as a multi-sided company which has various range of customers. And what is the value that LinkedIn is offering? Can you share your opinion in the chat box? What value do you think LinkedIn is offering to all of us who are using LinkedIn? What value do you think LinkedIn is offering to its users? If you have used LinkedIn, you would have an idea of how useful LinkedIn is. Networking, connectivity, absolutely. So it's connecting people from across the globe professionally, and it's doing better than any of its competitors like Glassdoor. There are various levels of membership on LinkedIn. You could be using a free version or you could be using a paid version. But whatever you're using, it is providing you the service of connectivity and potential investors. Absolutely. And what helps LinkedIn to be an organization of this scale? Any idea how many users on LinkedIn? Come on, quickly in the chat box. How many users on LinkedIn do you think are there? Don't Google out. How many users on LinkedIn you think are there across the globe? 20 million? Okay. So there are 500 million users on LinkedIn, people who are registered on LinkedIn. With these 500 million people registered on LinkedIn, there is hardly a percentage which is using the paid version. The rest of them are using the free version. Then how does this company make money? They are taking advantage of the scale. There is no other professional connectivity platform that offers this kind of scale, 500 million people in one place. That's the beauty of LinkedIn. And how does it make money? What is their profit-making model? From their memberships, from the advertisements, and other stuff like that. And they're doing it very well that no other competitor has been able to copy. So when they were strategizing their business, they are very clear. They have been very clear in answering those questions and answering to the T to make sure that no competitor is able to copy what they are doing. And that's what the case is. No competitor has been able to achieve that scale where LinkedIn is. And based on that, we are concluding that the best imaginable position for your product is when your product is well in demand and your product is safe from your competitors. Then there's nothing stopping from your business to flourish. The product is in demand, it is valued by the customers. Customers like your product for maybe its speed or its cost or its customizability. There is something unique in the product. The customers demand your products, and it is safe from being duplicated by any competitors. That is the position where you can be having a good night's sleep as an entrepreneur, knowing that, okay, you are safe. This should be the goal of having a business strategy. Now, based on the questions that we just answered, that you need to answer for your business as well. If any of you are doing this exercise right now and you have any questions, feel free to pop in those questions in the chat box. I'm here. So when you're answering those questions for designing your business, then comes the steps for creating your winning business strategy. What do we mean by a winning business strategy? You have answered the questions, you're ready with this business strategy, and once you've made sure that the competitors are away, you are able to create a winning business strategy. And what are you building it on? You're building it on a vision. You know, Steve Case, the founder or the CEO of AOL, he said, a vision without a strategy is like hallucination. So having a vision, I know what I want, but if I don't have a plan in place, then I'm hallucinating. I'm just daydreaming, nothing else. So your business has to be built on a vision. And all these things that I'm talking about, my friends, it comes before even thinking of your product, before even thinking of how you're going to take it to the market. You have to have a vision. Why am I creating this particular product? If you're creating a calculator that maybe works on solar energy or something like that, you need to be very clear on why you are doing that. This is the key. Please take it down. Being clear on why you are doing, not what you are doing. What you are doing will automatically fall in place if you're able to answer this, why you are doing something. So once you have a vision, you will focus on the top level objectives that you need to achieve in order to realize that vision. And once you have your objectives in place, it's like breaking a big pumpkin down into small pieces, okay? So the vision we've broken down into objectives, and from the objectives now we are saying one by one, plan your attack, choose the battlefield. What is the market that you want to be playing in? Who are the competitors that you want to be competing against? Have a reality check. And this reality check is not once and for all. You know, people who used to be doing great before the pandemic are not doing so great anymore. So this reality check has to be done consistently because the scenario in the world is changing. Things are not constant. Rather, change is the only thing that's constant. Who would have imagined that the entire global economy, the supply chain, would be disrupted by a small virus? We never thought of it. And now in the news, we are even hearing about a second pandemic. You know, in the European countries and in some Asian countries, there is this backcoming of the virus, which people thought that they had already thrown out of their countries. So we need to be ready for what's coming in because the situations are changing very fast. And if we are not able to adapt to change, it is difficult to survive. You all know that from the theory of evolution that Charles Darwin talked about. So build that strategic framework, build that plan, build that crisis sustainability model when you're talking about your strategy. Make sure that you're safe. Make sure that you're ready for whatever is coming your way. And for this, I'll show you a small crisis management model. Okay, so on the y-axis, you have the activity, or on the x-axis, you have the time. This shows how the companies across the globe have been mitigating the current pandemic that we are talking about, the COVID-19. So initially, when the pandemic was announced, it was in March in most of the places. The Wuhan had it way back in December before the new year. But in most of the other countries, it was March that things were going on a red alert. That's when immediate actions were required by the companies to make sure that their people were safe, to make sure that essential business functions were operating. Imagine a pharmaceutical company. They would have had to take really stringent measures in place to make sure their people were safe and they were still operating and they were still manufacturing drugs for the health of people across the globe. While there were some other companies which were into other stuff, which was not so important, they were able to shut down for a while. But even that shutting down, go and ask them, wasn't easy. How would they pay their employees? And for those of them who had to furlough their employees or lay off their employees, imagine what would have been the condition of those employees. You must have had at least one or two people in your friend circle or in your network from whom you've had stories like that, that they were furloughed or they were laid off because of the pandemic, and now they're searching for their jobs again. So that's the orange part, where the businesses responded immediately on what was necessary at that moment. Safety was the most important in that moment. And once we made sure that we were safe, once we had agreed on the measures we needed to take in order to be preventive for the spread of COVID, for instance, having a mask around, or using sanitizers, things like that. When those things were decided upon, the businesses again made a decision, some of them, not all still, they made a decision to recover, to come back, to restart their activities. And if you remember, first of all, 20% of the working force was allowed, then it was 33%, then came 50%, and now companies are allowed to operate at 100% of their workforces, depending on the industry you are in. So even that reopening, rehiring, rebudgeting, the resupply of all the commodities, it wasn't easy. They had to have a plan in place to restore that scalable state where they were working in before the pandemic. And once they were able to take care of the second priority list, then came the renew part, where they were talking about the durable execution strategies across the organization to make sure they never got into a situation like this if there was a second crisis or a second pandemic to come in, basically learning from what has gone through and then applying it in case you have a crisis again. So this was the crisis management model, which was built into only 10% of the strategic plans of companies across the globe. Only 10% of companies across the globe were able to have a plan in place which made sure they were able to survive the pandemic period pretty well, as compared to other companies, of course. It wasn't easy for anyone, but there were some who did it better than the others because of having a plan in place, because of having a business model that was resilient to such attacks. I know it might be sounding that, okay, we are just starting, we are on a small scale. How do you expect us to have something in place? But you can, regardless of your scale. Whether you're a single person running the show or you have 100 employees, you can always have these plans in place. Sure, it takes time and hard work. And there is this company called Britannia that has been able to do this really well. And this is also the case through which I'm going to explain to you the difference between a strategy and a tactic. Remember, strategy, we said, is the broader view of your goals and your plan, while tactic is the technique that you're going to be using in order to achieve that plan. Okay, so Britannia is a multinational company, and as you see the picture on the right side of the screen, they have all the biscuits and the dairy products and cakes and things like that. And during the pandemic, like other companies, they were also facing this issue of plummeting revenue, which was even difficult to take care of the employees that they had. But they did not want to furlough or lay off any employees. They wanted to make sure that they were together as a family. So their strategy during the lockdown was to sustain the lockdown period with existing resources. When I say existing resources, I mean they did not want to add to the resources. Obviously, they did not have the cash flows to add to the resources. You know, everything needs money in business. But at the same time, they did not even want to reduce those resources. For example, the employees, they did not want any of their employees to leave them. So they had to find a way to make sure they were able to meet their expenses, they were able to pay the salaries of their employees, and they were able to survive this lockdown period with the resources that they had in hand. What is the technique they used? The 80-20 rule. How many of you have heard of the 80-20 rule? A yes or a thumbs up or a no is fine. As an entrepreneur, what's most important is to have courage. Courage to say that we don't know and we are ready to learn, to have that vulnerability. Yeah, cannot be know everything. There are so many things in the world, and we just have 1,260 cubic centimeters space here in the brain. So the space is limited. It's okay if we don't know anything. We're ready to learn as entrepreneurs. Okay, so the 80-20 rule is a rule which is applied to so many aspects of your life, from your personal life to your business to your school, academics, everywhere you hear about it. Let me talk about the origin of this one. So the origin is from Milan, Italy, okay, where I'm based. And during the period in Italy, which was like 100, 200 years back, there used to be very economically affluent people. And they said that in the city of Milan, which is the capital of Italy, which is the commercial capital of Italy, they said that 20% of the people occupy 80% of the wealth. So 80% of the wealth of the city or the country was occupied by only 20% of the people. Exactly, Pareto's principle is what you call it. And likewise, if we have to apply this principle to our time management skills, if you literally sit down with a list of activities that you do during the day and you're going to allot the time that you spend doing those activities, you will find that 20% of your activities are taking up 80% of your time. Another homework, another interesting homework if you want to do for a Friday night, okay? Go home and sit down and write all your activities and how much time you spend doing those activities. You will realize that 20% of the activities are taking up 80% of your time. Now coming to this particular case of strategy, okay? 80-20 rule is the technique that they used. Now, how did they do it? They have all these range of products as you see on my screen. Now, they identified 20% of the products or the SKUs, stock keeping units, which you call in the manufacturing industry. They identified 20% of the products that were contributing to 80% of the profits. And that was the idea of the MD of this organization called Varun Berry, who was also the CEO of PepsiCo International before he came down to Britannia. So they identified 20% of the products that were contributing to 80% of the profits. And they said, okay, we are going to focus on these 20% of the products, and we will make sure that what we are doing, we'll do it well. And when things are back to normal, then we'll talk about the rest of the products. So they focused on these 20% of the products, 20% of their SKUs, and they were able to see more streamlining in their productivity, more flexibility in the manufacturing capacities. People were happy because of the efficiency with which they were working in factories, and at the same time with the efficiency with which the products were being transferred from factories to the dealer locations and to the end consumers, etc. And this was a laser sharp focus and execution, because they were only having 20% of the products to take care of. They were able to have their execution with a laser sharp focus. And it did play out well, because they were able to have a 26% spike in their revenue in the quarter of April to June this year, April to June 2020, as compared to what they had done last year when there was no pandemic. So there is one way, in one scenario, we are talking about industries that are having difficulty to survive this pandemic and which are not even able to pay their employees. They have to lay off their employees. On the other hand, we have companies who have their strategies in place and they have the tactics in place, and they know how to make the best out of the given situation. And they have had a 26% spike in their revenue in this COVID period, where people are even struggling to survive as compared to what they had done last year when there was no pandemic. So that's the beauty of strategy. If you have a plan in place, if you're clear about what you want to achieve and how you're going to achieve that, regardless of the situation, you will be able to do that. There is a very high probability of this. And with this, I open the floor to any questions that you might have related to what we have discussed, or any questions in general that you have about your business or about what's going on in the world right now and what kind of strategies do we need to mitigate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Supriya.
I was already noting down some questions that I had for you. So it's good that we're going to be having enough time to share on some of the questions that I have for you. While I'm going to be waiting, thank you so much. It was such a insightful session, even with the very short and insightful and very very quick. Thank you. I was noting down some questions I was going to ask you, but I'm also going to be waiting for other questions in the comment section in the few more minutes that we have. First of all, my question is, one can think about strategy from the perspective of, just having a plan. If this happen, I'll do this. If this happen, I'll do this. If this happen, I'll do this. Or one can, first of all, I think what I really want to know, I have two questions. Okay. The first question is trying to understand how to be proactive and not reactive, if you understand what I mean. Especially in a changing world and an increasingly uncertain world where you don't exactly know what is going to come next. Just like you were saying about COVID-19, nobody planned for COVID-19. I want to believe that. I don't know. That nobody knew it was coming. Maybe the people who made it knew it was coming, but at least most of the world did not know. So how do you exactly strategize for your business for a future that you don't exactly know? Is there a way? Do you have to always peep into the future? Do you always have to have an information about what is supposed to happen before you can plan? Or is there a way that you can strategize? Is there a way you can build some proactiveness into your strategy? Do you understand my question?
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. A very relevant question it is, and you answered it partly. You answered it partly by saying that you always have to be peeping into the future somehow. Now, we are not astrologers and we are not forecasters. We are not future readers. What we depend on is the news that goes around in the commercial world globally. Okay, so thinking of the oil prices, or thinking of the bullion prices, or thinking of all this geopolitics that is going on, we need to keep our eyes and ears open. As entrepreneurs, we cannot be relaxing. Honestly, there is no place for relaxation in the life of an entrepreneur, if you have to be honest. For those of us who are into business and we are struggling to get there, to lay our feet there, we know that those midnights that we've been working on things was the time when probably others, our friends, were having a great time. They were enjoying, they were partying. But as entrepreneurs, we did not have that luxury. And it is okay. If you're working hard today, you have a future that is open for you, and you have all the luxury that you can take care of later on if you're working hard now. So coming back to our question, keeping your eyes and ears open is very important as entrepreneurs. You might be in an industry, let's say you are in the beverage industry, for example, and you would be thinking, okay, if I'm in the beverage industry, why do I have to bother about what's going on in the petrochemical industry or in the construction industry? You cannot say that as an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, you are a part of that industrial ecosystem globally, and you are all connected. We all depend on each other. So regardless of the industry that you belong to, regardless of the size of your business, regardless of what business you are into, you have to be knowledgeable of what is happening in the world, because it can be affecting you in any way. It can be affecting you positively, and it can be affecting you negatively as well. So keep your eyes and ears open. Now, the second part of your question was how to be proactive. Now, in strategizing, there is a very important principle that we follow. For any planning that we are doing, we usually have three scenarios, at least three scenarios. I'm talking about the simplest aspect of it. Okay, if you're going to complex things, there are more. But very simply, every time, any planning that we are doing, we have three scenarios. So we have the normal scenario, meaning as you're expecting it to happen. Okay, as it should happen, that is the normal scenario. Then you have the worst case scenario. What is the worst that could happen? And on the other side, you have the best case scenario. What is the best that could happen with what you're planning? So whatever planning you're doing, be ready with these three scenarios. The normal scenario, meaning what you're expecting to happen and what most likely will happen. And on the other hand, having a worst case scenario and having a best case scenario. You have to be ready with that as an entrepreneur.
Thank you so much. And riding on the back of this answer, before I ask my second question, I was realizing that what you're saying is that as an entrepreneur, you have to be a realist. You can't be too optimistic about your business idea. You can't, even though you know you're supposed to believe in it, know that it's going to work and all of that. You can't be too. Please correct me if I'm not understanding you. I'm feeling that you're saying that you have to have a sense of things can go wrong and have a plan in place if they go in a certain way, and also if things can go well and have a plan in place, right?
Absolutely. Be optimistic, but be ready for the unexpected also. So you have to play, as an entrepreneur, you're playing the role of three people. You're playing the role of a normal person, then you're playing the role of a pessimist, a deep pessimist, and then you're playing the role of an optimist, a person who's really, really optimistic. So you're playing the roles of three people as an entrepreneur. You're three in one.
Wow. So you have to have pessimism in your strategy to actually be prepared for whatever happens. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Okay, so the second question I was going to ask you that I wrote down, I can't say any question, so maybe I should just continue. Okay, so you can sit down and make plans, just like you've said, best case scenario, worst case scenario, drop all your business model canvas and this and that, who are your customers, where are you going to meet them, how are you going to do this, what will be your revenue stream, what will be your cost structure, what will be your channels of reaching your customers, what will be your value proposition and things like that. You can have it all on paper. But the truth is that by the time you get into the market, many times things are not exactly always the way you planned it. And that's the whole point of having worst case scenario and best case scenario. What I really want to know is what makes a plan effective? What makes a strategy effective? Because I know that having a strategy is good, but it's a strategy, a well-written strategy alone is not. I feel that a strategy does not guarantee its effectiveness, if you understand what I'm trying to say. I was going to ask you, what are the major keys that you think a strategy must have that can at least guarantee, but even if it's not going to guarantee full success, but at least guarantee a measure of success? Are there things like that? Are there some certain kind of keys that your strategy have to have that shows that you're on the right track? Are there things that make strategies effective?
Okay, so you talked about the business model canvas and the value proposition, and there are a number of modeling tools like that, okay, that we use in strategy. Fantastic, which are great to use. So based on these tools that we are using to strategize our business, this is the second step. Using the tools is the second step. The first step is what we covered today, asking yourself the right questions. So the point I'm making here is, what I discussed today is the first step. What you're talking about, Toyin, is the second step, having those tools and putting your information in place, okay? And choosing the tools that fit your business type, that fit your industry type. So that's important. Asking yourself the right questions, then choosing the right tools, some of which you named here, which is good. Another important aspect of your strategy should be, it has to be flexible. It's a VUCA world, it's a volatile, uncertain world. So we have to have this element of flexibility in our strategy. Well, we are writing everything down, but it's not carved in stone. It has to be flexible depending on what's going around globally. And the third is
flexibility is like, all right.
Yeah, go ahead. You want to say something?
I was just trying to piggyback on what you're saying, that because I'm trying to get my answers from what you're saying. It's like what I'm hearing you say is flexibility is one of the major keys in making your strategy effective.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay,
The
are there
third
more?
thing is the third thing is clarity. Now, what do we mean by clarity? Okay, as an entrepreneur, I have penned down everything. I have asked myself the right questions. I have chosen the right tool to strategize my business. Now, what comes next? I should be able to communicate this with the other stakeholders, with the other people who are involved in the business, because alone, I cannot do anything. I might be the owner of the business, I might be the CEO of my business, but alone, I cannot be successful because I depend on other people for their inputs.